Good morning. Welcome to another and incidentally the last edition for the week of your program, Inside Nigeria. Today is July 18, 2025, and my name is Winifred Ugbebo. We are on the site of Inside Nigeria. On today's show, we'll look at what the newspapers are saying, including Nigeria's foremost Friday newspaper, Leadership Friday. We'll go there and see what Leadership Friday has on its menu today. Leading story says Tinubu renames University of Maiduguri after Buhari. Tinubu renames University of Maiduguri after Buhari. And the writer says he was a leader of austere honor, quiet courage at FEC's tribute session in ex-president's honor. Buhari's son Yusuf tears up while giving vote of thanks. Ex-president was misunderstood, Shetima. Buhari was principled, Akpabio. He was a moral compass, Abbas. We'll take some excerpts from that leading story on Leadership Friday. We move over to page 7 of the paper for excerpts. And I read, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Thursday announced the renaming of the University of Maiduguri as Muhammadu Buhari University in honor of the late former Nigerian president who died on July 13 in a UK hospital and was buried in Daura, Katsina State on July 15. President Tinubu described his successor Buhari as a national icon of integrity, simplicity, and selfless leadership. Tinubu made the announcement at a solemn special session of the Federal Executive Council held at the State House in Abuja to pay tribute to the former military head of state and two-term civilian president. We'll take some excerpts from that. We'll take, he was a moral compass, Speaker Abbas. On his part, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, recalled the late president's quiet strength, moral clarity, and selfless devotion to Nigeria. He was more than a leader. He was a mentor, a moral compass, and a source of guidance, Abbas said. He lived not for applause or influence, but for principle, for country, and for the cause of a better Nigeria. He championed an ethical civil service, head of civil service. Representing the Nigerian Civil Service, head of service of the Federation, Didi Wasin Jack hailed Buhari as a towering figure in Nigeria's national life. His administration championed the federal civil service strategy and implementation plans, reflecting his belief in a capable and ethical public service, she said. For Abdurrahman Abdurazik, chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum and governor of Kwara State, Buhari's legacies were visible across all regions. He was a devoted servant of the Nigerian people. Across every region of our great nation, his legacies remain visible and impactful. We'll also take excerpts from that of his daughters, Buhari's daughters. They said, "We are grateful to those who have forgiven our father." As the mourning over the death of former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari continues, his daughters said they thank those who forgave their father. Aisha Hana Buhari and Hadiza Muhammadu Buhari, who spoke to BBC Hausa, expressed their delight in those who forgave their father who served the country in different capacities. Muhammadu Buhari died on Sunday in a London hospital after a long battle with illness. Those close to the disease described him as a friendly and loving person with a deep love for his family. However, Aisha, popularly known as Hana Buhari, who is one of his younger children, also expressed the grief she felt after the death of her father. Hannah said that losing her father was like losing a part of her body. What I will miss most about him is his sense of humor. I look up to him as a part of me, she explained. And also thanked Nigerians who forgave their father, saying we have nothing to say to them except thank you, thank God. She added that his disease had good intentions towards Nigerians, describing him as one of the common people. Leading story today on Leadership newspaper. Tinubu renames University of Maiduguri after Buhari, says he was a leader of austere honor, quiet courage at FEC's tribute session in ex-president's honor. Buhari's son tears up while giving vote of thanks. Ex-president was misunderstood, Vice President Shetima. Buhari was principled, Akpabio. He was a moral compass, Abbas. Riders to the leading story on today's Leadership Friday. Before we move over to the next stories on the cover of Leadership Friday, let's show videos of the fake valedictory section yesterday in honor of late President Muhammadu Buhari. Watch.
On behalf of the entire members of the late Muhammadu Buhari's family, I wish to sincerely extend our deepest gratitude to to Mr. President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the First Lady, Senator Oduremi Tinubu, the Vice President, His Excellency Hashim Shetima, and his wife, Hajia Nana Kashim, for your outstanding foreign support received by the family from the time he took ill until he peacefully passed on, which was Sunday, 13th of July, 2025. It has showed that he was regarded far more than a politician, but regarded as a friend and a father. Let me specially and specifically acknowledge the Chief of Defense Staff, the service chiefs, heads of security and law enforcement agencies, as well as all members of the armed forces of Nigeria, our late father's first and primary constituency, for the esprit de corps, solidarity, and the befitting military burial given to our late father. Finally, we thank all members of the diplomatic corps, traditional and religious leaders, political associates, friends, family members, the press, and indeed all Nigerians at home and in diaspora for the numerous calls, messages, condolence visits, and prayers offered for the repose of the gentle soul of our departed father. Your visits, calls, and prayers symbolize the great honor to the memory of our late father, and we're sincerely grateful for all the support and solidarity extended to the family. May Allah continue to bless us all and to bless all of us.
President Buhari's life was one of austere honor. He stood always ramrod straight, unmoved by the temptation of power, unseduced by applause, and unafraid of the loneliness that often visits those who do what is right, rather than what is popular. Was a quiet courage, a righteousness that never announced itself. His patriotism was lived more in action than in words. When his tenure ended, he returned to Dara, not to command from the shadows or to hold court, but to live as he always had, never seeking to impose his will, but content to let others carry the nation forward. President Buhari was not a perfect man. No leader is. But he was, in every sense of the word, a good man, a decent man, an honorable man. His record will be debated, as all legacies are, but the character he brought to public life, the moral force he carried, the incorruptible standard he presented will not be forgotten. His was a life lived in full service to Nigeria and in fidelity to God. Now he rests, and we who remain must carry the memory of life as a standard to guide us. Let us honor him, not only with words, but with humility in power, discipline in service, compassion in governance, and fearlessness in the pursuit of justice. May Gazikia, the people's general, the former president, your duty is done. May Almighty Allah forgive his shortcomings and grant him Alijana Firdaus. May his life continue to inspire generations of Nigerians to serve with courage, conviction, and selflessness. President Buhari, thank you. Nigeria will remember you. We adopt naming of University of Maiduguri with a new name as Muhammadu Buhari University, Maiduguri.
You just watched the Federal Executive Council's tribute session in honor of late President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday at the Villa. We'll continue with the leading stories on Leadership Friday this Friday. National Summit Delegates seek Constituent Assembly. That story runs on page 8 of Leadership Friday. It's also a leading story. Some of the papers we have on our lineup for review this Friday. States reject Electricity Act Amendment B. Landlord connives with kidnappers to rape, murder varsity students. Soldiers reject 13 million naira bribe from terrorists in Plateau. That story is on page 11 of Leadership Friday. Soldiers reject 13 million naira bribe from terrorists in Plateau. Like the leading story, we have the picture of the President Bola Tinubu and his vice, flanked by the children of former President Muhammadu Buhari at the presidential villa yesterday during the fake tribute session in honor of the late leader. Atop the masthead of leadership, Tinubu demands new strategy to fight bandits. And Buhari's daughter says, we are grateful to those who are forgiving our father. ADC calls for audit of refineries. With that, we conclude the review of front headline stories on Leadership Friday this Friday. We'll move over to the page 3 of the paper where we have our stand. Today's stand is on as Oba Adetona joins his ancestors. This stand today is in honor of the Awujale of Ijebu land, Oba Sikiru Kayode Adetona, the paramount ruler of the Ijebu nation, who was in his lifetime an epitome of humility, the type that was scarce within royal circles. Today's stand in leadership is dedicated to honor the passage of Oba Adetona. From our page 3, we move over to the back page of Leadership Friday this Friday for conversation with Azu. And today's conversation, Azu is musing on Muhammadu Buhari. Musings on Muhammadu Buhari. Today's conversation with Azu Isiekwene. And in quote, he said, divested of military authority, Buhari's passion for rooting out corruption became an albatross. Of course, it's the most conversation you have to join part of as you log into the platform of the website of Leadership to read more on this conversation, other stories in Leadership, the cover, and inside stories. However, before we leave Leadership Friday, let's see what Ghana Must Go has in his kitty. He says, from autumn, why I worked against PDP in 2023. And of course, Ghana Must Go replied him, clap for yourself. Very, very funny. Don't forget to log into the website of Leadership Friday for continuation of the headline stories, inside stories, back page conversation with Azu. You have to continue that conversation with Azu Sekwene and Ghana Must Go. www.leadership.ng. From Leadership, we move over to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Vanguard. Vanguard's leading story is also on the same valedictory session at FEC yesterday in Villa. He said, a special FEC session, Buhari's patriotism lived in deeds, not words, coming from Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of Nigeria. Says as President maintained his signature, serenity in life, in death. Renames Maiduguri University after him. He pursued justice with sincerity, Shetima. The story continues. That story continues on page 5 of Vanguard. A special FEC session, Buhari's patriotism lived in deeds, not words. Tinubu says as President maintained his signature, serenity in life, in death. Renames Maiduguri University after him. He pursued justice with sincerity, Shetima. Just like Leadership, we also have the picture of the president and some FEC members flanked by the president flanked by the children of the late president. Beneath that, YG5 betrayed Atiku PDP in 2023 is the news on Ghana Must Go today coming from Autumn. He said Autumn orders opportunist SVP. Momodu dumps PDP, joins ADC. Second leading story on Vanguard this Friday. Why G5 betrayed Atiku PDP in 2023 coming from Autumn, former governor of Benue State. Why Wike talks down on PDP leaders, Ogidi, South caretaker chair. Why Wike talks down on PDP leaders, Ogidi, South caretaker chair. Interpol probes importation of 3.3 billion naira, damaged solar panels. Mission X, no room for errors against Zambia, Maiduguri assures Nigerians. And that is from Sports Story. We move over to the masthead above it, Force Health Co. Controversy trace multi-billion naira shares D. That story continues on page 19 of Vanguard. Force Hold Co. That is First Bank of Nigeria company. Controversy trace multi-billion naira shares D. Underneath that, Nigeria reaches 79.65% tele-density, 48.81% broadband penetration, NCC. ADC to federal government audits $21 billion spent on refineries before sale. Port security, Nimasa shuts 2 facilities for non-compliance. That story continues on page 19 of Vanguard, and that also brings to a close the review of front headline stories on Vanguard this Friday. Don't forget to log into the website of Vanguard for continuation of these headline stories. We move to the next paper on our lineup, and that is Blueprint newspaper. Blueprint's leading story this Friday says Buhari was a decent man, never moved by power, coming from Tinubu at the FEC special session yesterday. Akpabio Abbas, NGF, others extol ex-president's virtues. He was a devoted servant of the people, governors. FEC names Unimate after late Nigerian leader. Nigeria has capacity to end insecurity, restore peace, experts, comments Tinubu on Nigeria force policy. That story is on the cover of Blueprint newspaper today. Tunji Ojo, Alake, Umahi, Kiari, Usef, Hadiza, Usman bag Blueprint Impact Awards. Still on Blueprint newspaper, no new terror group in Nigeria. Defense headquarters counters Turkey envoy. Benue to shut down 4,000 substandard schools, official. ISPS code, Nimasa shuts down Share Plus TMDK facilities. NOA, that is National Orientation Agency, sensitizes Gwagwalada community on flood safety. We move towards the masthead of Blueprint. Ondo landlord warders arrested over kidnap murder of 2 varsity students. It's also this leading story in Leadership Friday we saw before this. WAFCON, no room for errors against Zambia, coming from Maiduguri. Is on that note we conclude front page review on Blueprint newspaper this Friday. For more, log into www.blueprint.ng. From Blueprint, we go over to the next paper, and that is THISDAY. THISDAY still has the same FEC special session held in honor of former President Muhammadu Buhari. He says Tinubu immortalizes Buhari, renames University of Maiduguri after him. Says he was a patriot indeed, not word. Akpabio says he was a principled, dutiful leader. Abbas, he was no ordinary figure in our national journey. NGF, he was a statesman, patriot, and committed servant of Nigerian people. Yusuf, Buhari's son, thanks nation for staggering show of love. These are riders to the leading story on this day on the FEC session yesterday held in honor of late former President Muhammadu Buhari. Atop the leading story, ADC to federal government, without full audit, you cannot waste billions to repair, quietly sell refineries. Leading story again in some of the papers we had before this day. It continues on page 5 of the paper. And above the masthead, says 25% of First Holdco shares went to federal government's trustee, not Otedola. Oteduko's first exit stands, Odukale sold voluntarily. Adedeji, OAGF key to upholding accountability in tax revenues compliance. That story runs on page 6 of THISDAY newspaper. From THISDAY, we move over to the next paper we have on our lineup this Friday, and that is Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune is still on the special session yesterday at FEC. Tinubu, Akpabio, Abbas, others celebrate Buhari at expanded FEC. University of Maiduguri, now to be known as Muhammadu Buhari University. Generations will feel his absence. Tinubu, he left a legacy of reforms, head of service. His integrity was unmatched. Alake. Tinubu will uphold dignity of Buhari's family. Katsina people, Shetima. Those stories, riders to the leading story, runs on page 3 of Nigerian Tribune. Soldiers rejected 13.7 million naira bribe from terrorists coming from defense headquarters. Don't be an Oba if you can't abide by tradition, Olowo of Owo. Ipman, IYC back proposed sale of Port Harcourt refinery, give conditions. Ipman, IYC is a Ijo Youth Council. Back proposed sale of Port Harcourt refinery, give conditions. And second leading story on Nigerian Tribune this Friday, the Patriots Summit. Delegates propose restructuring of security architecture, electoral reform orders. Advocate Constituent Assembly, devolution of power, unicameral legislature. Riders to the leading story, second leading story actually on Nigerian Tribune this Friday, the Patriots Summit. Delegates propose restructuring of security architecture, electoral reform orders. Advocate Constituent Assembly, devolution of power, unicameral legislature. That takes us to the stories above the masthead of Nigerian Tribune. ADC to federal government, you can't spend billions to repair refineries and sell without full audit. You can't spend billions to repair refineries and sell without full audit. South-South contributed 34 trillion naira to Nigeria's economy, coming from CIBN, that is Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. South-South contributed 34 trillion naira to Nigeria's economy. Is on that note, we conclude review of front headline stories on Nigerian Tribune this Friday, July 18, 2025. For more, log in to the website of Nigerian Tribune. From Nigerian Tribune, we move to the last paper we have on our lineup this Friday, and that is The Punch. The Punching story says, shocking surge. Electricity subsidy jumps 220% to 2 trillion naira. Shocking surge. Electricity subsidy jumps 220% to 2 trillion naira. Is actually a shocking surge. Economic strain blamed for unsustainable power subsidy levels. 36 governors reject amendments to Electricity Act. It's also a leading story. That rider is also a leading story on the cover of Leadership Friday this Friday. Shocking surge. Electricity subsidy jumps 220% to 2 trillion naira. Economic strain blamed for unsustainable power subsidy levels, while 36 governors reject amendment to Electricity Act. Like other papers before it, we also have the picture of the special session at FEC yesterday with former President Muhammadu Buhari's children, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his vice, the National Assembly leaders, and some FEC members. At that FEC, Tinubu immortalizes Buhari with Unimate renaming amid FEC glowing tributes. Underneath that, Dangote holds fuel discount scheme amid fraud allegations. Dangote holds fuel discount scheme amid fraud allegations. Ondo Oro, landlord accomplices nabbed over varsity students' mother. Of course, it's also a story that is also on the cover of the papers we read before, The Punch, just including Leadership, Blueprint, and even Vanguard newspaper. Shocking. Ondo Oro, landlord accomplices nabbed over varsity students' mother. Awujale's 2. Ruling House kicks off selection, insists on tradition. That story is on page 10 of The Punch. Awujale's 2. Ruling House kicks off selection, insists on tradition. That takes us to the story beside the masthead of The Punch. Federal government by Courtney resume talks on Lagos Airport mega projects. And atop the masthead of The Punch, ADC kickstarts 2027 manifesto drive. Opposition coalition pledges fair grant for Atiku, Obi, Amechi, others. Dele Momodu quits PDP. Kachiku warns Obi against accepting VP slot. That story runs on page 2 of The Punch. The massacre shuts 2 fuel loading terminals over security breach. It continues on page 17 of The Punch. And that also concludes review of front headline stories on the paper this Friday. For more, log into the website of The Punch, www.punchng.com. That concludes the review of newspaper headlines on today's program Inside Nigeria, your breakfast on Leadership Television. Don't also forget to log in on the same frequency for news on the hour. My name is Unifred Weber. Thanks for joining us.